I want to talk to you a little bit, Sister Barbara Adams, about your life. And it's an amazing life. It's fascinating. Yes. You have a lot of the grace of God that's been spread across your life for almost, it seems like, from the day you were born.
Yes.
All the way even into this present time. And I know we're grateful for that. We're certainly grateful to have you a part of Cross Journey.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed the church very much. I'm very pleased with it. Seems like the Lord had his hand in it to come here. And I remember when Brother Fields came up to Cornerstone, I listened to his speech, and I felt real good about it right then. And I thought, I think as a man of God, I need to go the way he says we should go. So I made up my mind, I will try and go. Also, you know, if you start something new, it's always difficult to adjust.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you've been going so many years to a certain place. But I'm very pleased with everything, what is here, and God has his hand on it, and hope he will bestow this church very many blessings, very many good people, and that we can go on and live for him and be witnesses to some other folks.
Okay.
Born in Germany in 1925 on December the 12th. It was a very cold day. My mother said it was about 10 below zero. And they had the warm bricks to keep me warm. And that was the only way then you could do. And also it was during the Great Depression in Germany, which lasted from 23 on to 28. And at that time, then, as we grew along, there came this young man called Adolf Hitler. And he just had meetings like young groups. He got together with young groups, and this was brainstorming different things about jobs and that what they could do and help the country on how to get to power. Well, it didn't take very long. He made pretty good on this deal. They had then at the time as a president Hindenburg, von Hindenburg. And von Hindenburg, he somehow he passed away for the time, and that's when Hitler took the reign of the regime in Germany. By the time we were about 6 years old, in 1931, Hitler came on the regime. And then things changed rapidly. For some people, for the best. For the people what were very religious or go to different churches, it was bad because things began. He tried to do away with God, tried to do away with the church services, would disturb him if they could, and get us out on Sunday mornings in the fields to work for the farmers on Sunday morning. Or do everything, zwang, slave labor, you might say. No money, no nothing. We were taken out of church services in the mornings. They come in and say, everybody out in the fields, in your Sunday clothes, hoeing sugar beet fields. So I thought, well, I'm going to show you what I'm going to be hoeing. And I hoed 2 big long rows of sugar beets all out of the ground. The supervisor came and yelled at me, and of course, curse words were on the agenda at the time, and told me to put that hoe down and get myself going. So I got going. But this didn't end it right there. It kept on going. Of course, German children, well, they had to start working early. I babysitted when I was 10 years old for 3 boys at a farm for but little bit of nothing. But as the time goes on, Hitler just gotten worse and worse. People what didn't agree with him, farms would get up in flames, they set them on fire, and stuff like that. We were forced to go to school and get indoctrinated by the regime, what we should do and they wanted all the young ladies to have babies, so that we have plenty soldiers to fight during the war. So, of course, that wasn't on my agenda. But As the time went on, we sort of had to go underground, the churches especially. We were raised as Catholics, all my forefathers, ever since the 1600s, were raised Catholic, and Hitler hated Catholics. We were persecuted wherever they could go. We had to have church in cellars. We couldn't hardly pray. We had to practically hide out, like the fighters, the underground fighters.
So, but you love God so much.
Yes.
So much.
You
risk your life
yes.
to have church in a cellar.
Yes.
So that you could worship God.
Yes. We had to hide out to worship God. And many churches got closed. But of course now some people like this regime because it's given them jobs. But you know what Hitler did? He built up the war machine. As the time went on, about 13 years old, there were rumors of wars already going, and they would draft people in and train them. And I had about 13 cousins in Germany, which all during the war got lost in Stalingrad. We don't know yet, and probably never will, till the day comes when Jesus calls us all out. We may get to see him again, because they all were good Christian people, good Christian men. You don't find too very many anymore. At this time, it got 19 and 38. They had the Kristallnacht. They began and persecuted Jewish people. They took everything out the stores. They ruined everything these people had. And that's for good people. They didn't bother nobody. And they would have to wear a yellow star. And so my dad, he always traded with one of the men. And he said, Mr. Fischer, he said, what you think we should be doing? And my dad said, if you can get out, Mr. Frankel. And he did get out, and his son had a store, a pharmacy in Little Rock, and I got to know him when I come over here in 1949. And they got out, they could take all the furniture and everything what they had. But after that, the Jewish people were totally, it was horrible. But we didn't really know all that much about it because German people disappeared too. 1939 come all suddenly, we hear a special report that Germany invaded Poland and already was so many kilometers in the inland. And they called it the Blitzkrieg. It means lightning war, fast war. Within 30 days, they had the country overrun. And then Hitler made out a pact with Russia that he would not invade Russia, but he did after all, because he did not have any reservations for nobody. He did what he wanted to do because he was totally, I don't know, he was from the devil possessed, I believe. He visited Russia, and that was our downfall. The first few years, they went all the way up into Stalingrad, and they fought bitterly. But the Russians were better prepared for the winter time as the Germans. And that's when the big turnaround came. As the time went on, I went to work. I had to work. First, I graduated from school, and I had to work a year at the farmer. That was slave labor also. He made, under this regime, we had to do it for a whole year. After that, I went 2 years to business school. And after the 2 years, I got a job with a company where I learned to drive, a driving school, and it was under Nazi Germany. So when I graduated, I didn't even have a week time. The boss from that place came to our house. No, and we were Catholics, and come and got me to come to work and wanted me to come the next day. And I told him, I said, do you mean I do not get a vacation at all? And he said, no, we need you now. I had to go to work. See, that's the force. And I went to work there. There were so many controversies. I couldn't hardly take it. So as the war kept on going, Russia, it turned right around. Oh, they made a lot of big propaganda about this and that. We're winning the war and all. My uncle, which lived across the street where we did live, said out, well, we're not going to win this war, we're losing it. And he disappeared from the streets. Nobody knew where he went. Till later on when it come out, he wasn't very far from us, about 7 kilometers, but it's about 10 miles maybe, in a camp, concentration camp. They tortured him, and he came out after the war. He was just a skeleton. He lived about a month and died. He's buried in Berlin-Treptow, which is a suburban area of Berlin.
Yes.
Then, when all of this war, and the Russians keep coming nearer and closer, and I told my dad, I said, I'm not going to stay, I'm going to get out. I said, I'm not going to let them get a hold of me and rape me. I'm not going to do that, I'm leaving. So I worked in town at the office, and so one day the boss came, he asked me, he said, Fräulein Fischer. I said, yes, sir. He said, how about you joining the German NSDAP, that means the German Workers' Union? And I looked at him and I said, sir, I'll be honest with you, I said, I am not willing to join right now, but I want to wait and see how the war comes out. And I said, if we win the war, I always can join, but right now I don't want to. He looked at me and said, Fräulein Fischer, did you know I could put you in the concentration camp for that? But since you are such a nice person, I can't hardly do this. And he let it go at that. I never joined. And that was I would not get to come to the United States if I would have joined that special organization. And I still got a declaration at home, I should have brought it, that I not belonged to that party. And so that gave me the entrance to the United States. Otherwise, I would have been denied. Well, I escaped all of this. Now, on the end of the war, the Russians keep coming closer. We losing more and more ground. One January in 1945, I was spending the night with a friend of mine, and we had the Russians come in on the airport side. You could hear them when the wind came from that way, because our town was very small, about the size of Conway. We looked at each other and said, oh, we're all getting out. So we picked up, I had a suitcase about that, I don't know how long you would say, 25 inches by 20 inches. I put in just one outfit of clothes, one blanket, one pillow, tied it up on the bicycle, and I didn't even call the business place, because I was under oath. If they would have known that I escaped and gone, they could have shot me.
And you took off.
I took off. We went up in the mountains, and we spent the night there. The next day we went into another area. We took every day on a bicycle. Well, my brother, my sister, and all of them got caught by the Russians. And it wasn't a very pretty picture. They all were sort of like imprisoned in a camp. But then they had to go and work at the railway station and take all the rails up, take big bolts out of the rails, and they loaded them off and shipped them to Russia. And they had to go in the mornings at daybreak, and at nights they come in. Of course, not much to eat. Many of them passed away. As we went on over the mountains, we had to finally came to the Czechoslovakian border, and they said, stop. We had to stop, or they wanted documents, pass to enter the state. At that time, Czechoslovakia was still in place. And we said, well, we don't have no papers, we don't have nothing. You can't go over the border just with the bicycles. We had to load our bicycles on the freight train and go all the way to Czechoslovakia and all the way to Bavaria. Well, on the way, it was all people, elderly people, and young mothers with young children. But the train was marked on top of it with red crosses. But that didn't bother the enemies. They bombed us anyway. But as we went along, we came to a little town called Fürstenwald, which is in Bavaria. And we stopped there. And it was looked like no man's land. And we got out. I got out, and two more ladies, or maybe a couple more. There were no men. They all were the wars. Were just all ladies. What had to throw the load. We went and said, well, what's going to happen? I said, the people are hungry. We go into town. I was the main speaker, and that was the Bürgermeister, the town mayor. I said, we need something to eat for the old people and the babies. He said, I'm sorry, we have got nothing ourselves. I said, oh, yes, you have. I said, you dig something up. I said, we're not going to leave till you do. And then when we got back, it didn't take very long. They brought hard-boiled potatoes, and they brought milk for the babies, and everybody got a piece of bread without anything. We're just so glad to get that. And then I said, if you don't give us anything to eat, we're going to come and we're going to get it.
So y'all were that hungry.
So we were all that hungry. As we got back and we had ate, and they went back, and it didn't take but 2 hours. They put the locomotive back on and pulled us out because